Can I now ask, please, that we introduce Elder Ron Jones, who will take us through his welcome to country. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Jones.
I thought I'd bring the clipsticks today so we could see, or if people get a chance to look right up the top of St Kilda Road into Swanston Street, and you'll see this tremendous image of this beautiful man here, William Barrick's image on that building right up the top end. So I thought I'd bring it today just to bring his spirit there to look over the conference and to protect everyone while they're on Wurundjeri country. So look, Wurundjeri Kundi Bik, me about it. Could I get everyone to say Wurundjeri? In my Wurrung language, that means welcome to my ancestors' country. The Wurundjeri people are traditional custodians of a very large area. We go from the mouth of the Wurundjeri River, then we go right up into the Great Divide, and then from the Great Divide we go right up into Yarra Ranges, and from Yarra Ranges we go right into Mount Bor Bor, and from Mount Bor Bor we come back around to the Mordialloc Creek, and from the Mordialloc Creek we come back around to the mouth of the Wurundjeri River. So what had happened, when other people come onto our country, we do a welcome and everything like that, so we'd have other tribes. And I'd like to pay my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that may be here, past and present, but all elders that are here in the room. And I'd like to acknowledge Martin here, so be very nice to him because he's got buckets and buckets of money. So I think my electorate is a little bit bigger than Martin's electorate. So, you know, he's only got a very, very small portion within Wurundjeri country. So we do have problems, and we have a lot of problems here in Victoria about traditional owner settlement, and we do have problems, and we are now in what you call a non-RAP area. So that means we have other imposters coming in and trying to steal our land. So I've got to get the clipsticks out and probably clap them back into the bay where they probably belong, because Port Phillip Bay there, over 3,000 years ago, there was no water in there. So our people used to go and hunt and travel, and probably travel across to Tasmania. So the bay filled up roughly around about 3,000 years ago. So we're going to push them back into the water. We shouldn't say that though. So look, I just love talking about my history and my culture, because especially William Barrick, what a tremendous man he did. He was the last Wurundjeri of our people. And back in the days, he was the chief and made king over Melbourne. And we didn't have kings in it, but what they did, they said, William, we're going to make you king. We're going to give you this beautiful brass plaque and put your name on it, but we're going to take all your land from you. So that's what they did. So what they did, they rounded all these people up and then they put them onto mission stations. So a lot of my family come off Corrindurk Aboriginal Mission Station. That's where my grandmother was born up there, my grandfather was born up there, and my mum was born at Corrindurk. And the stories that she used to tell me about Corrindurk, what such a beautiful place it was. But really, when you think of it, it was no difference from a concentration camp. So when refugees and that leave their country for torn away from, you know, they've got to leave their countries and they go into refugee camps. But what happened, our people didn't have that opportunity. They were rounded up and put onto those mission stations. So, but when I hear about the stories that Mum used to pass down to me about how our people were treated, and William Barrick, he fought against the Quarter Caste Act. So that was brought in by the government of the day, and it was there was a Royal Commission held at Corrindurk, and there's a play, I think it's been stopped now, that run around and talks about this rebellion or this Royal Commission that was held at Corrindurk. And when you hear people like your great-great-granduncle and your great-grandmother and that talking in this Royal Commission, and little Jack Charles, he played William Barrick, it brings tears to your eyes, and it talks about our history and everything about Corrindurk. But sadly, it got up, and then what it did, it segregated people like my mum and that were what determined back in them days as half-caste from the full-bloods. Back in them days, they couldn't tell the difference between the colour, because a lot of our people they thought were full-bloods. They weren't the half-caste, so they were sent down to Lake Tyers, and like my family was sent up to Cumragunja. So it pulled a lot of our families apart again. But when you think about Aboriginal history and culture, it's like the people that are in the room here. They're very passionate about mental health and all that. So that's what our people have been like. It's about looking after people, caring about people. And I have a big passion about mental health because we see it a lot within our group. And I was a part of help setting up the first medical centre in Gertrude Street, Fitzroy, back in 1972. And that's what it was about, sharing and caring and want to look after your people. And especially here in Melbourne, when I walk through Melbourne here, not just the Aboriginal people that are sleeping out in the streets and that are suffering, it's all different nationalities that are in Melbourne. And I'd like to see more done. And I think talk about it more, to bring people in, because our mental health here in Victoria, it's not shrinking, it's getting bigger. Not just in the Aboriginal community, but all communities. And I'd like to see more done about it, more openness and talking about it. Same as suicide. I had to go and do a welcome the other morning about, they were having a conference about suicide. And I think it's something that we've got to start putting on the table, because even that is getting bigger here with our younger generations, not just Aboriginal people, but with the non-Indigenous people too. So, I'd like to see more and more discussions, and probably, I don't know, how we work around on things to save and protect these people. But I think of, when I think of our family history, I'm so proud of it. We could have walked away from it and said I weren't Aboriginal, but we are so proud of our history and so much documented through history here. And when I think of the Victoria Market up there and William Barrick's image looking down all over Melbourne, within that Victoria Market there's about 7,500 graves that are in there. And what happened in one part of the cemetery, in the non-consecrated part, there's about 370 Aboriginal people buried there as well. So we've been fighting, and now we get a lot of people, non-Indigenous people too, starting to ask Melbourne City Council, my answers could be there still today. So we've had a win, and they're not going to build a car park underneath now. But one of the people that are in there is David William Barrick's son. So that's very, very special to our place, to us. And I had a young chap there, he was saying, I think Martin might have heard this story before about you don't look Aboriginal. And I said to this young chap, I said, no, I don't, do I? And he said, I said, you know why I don't look Aboriginal? He said, because me and my mum were both born very white, and my grandmother and that were born very dark in the daytime. We were born in the daytime, my grandmother and that were born in the night time. Right? So he said, you fair dinkum? Right? So, just things today, you never know when you're going to be sitting next to an Aboriginal person. So, but the thing was, he was drinking a cup of coffee, and I said, now, you see the colour of that cup of coffee that you poured out? He said, yeah. I said, what colour was it? He didn't want to say. I said, don't be, you already offended me. Don't be frightened to say it. He said, oh, it's black. I said, but you put milk into it, haven't you? He said, yes. I said, what's the colour of it now? He said, it's white. I said, every time you pour out that cup of coffee, always remember, you sit next to me. So, it just shows people how things have changed. So we're like climate change. We change with the climate. So, and that's another thing too. We're very passionate, but we work with the state government and with a lot of fantastic people for the new act that's over the Yarra River, because Yarra River is very precious to us. And first time ever, and I must say, about politicians, I applaud them politicians that we've been working with, especially with Richard Wynne, to help get that act over to start looking at our waterways and protecting our waterways. So next year, hopefully that the waterways of the West, that'll come under the same protection. So, just imagine you're all doing a fantastic job, and I applaud every one of you. And on behalf of Wurundjeri Elders, thank you for allowing us to come and share a bit of our history and a bit of our country and a bit of our passion about what you're doing as well. So thanks very much for having me. Ta.